They say half of your brain is in your intestines because the microbiome that you have in your intestines affect your mood, affect what you think, affect what you do. And basically, human is not an isolated brain that thinks by itself. Rather, it's the gathering of all the microbes, every bacteria that lives in our gut, along with our brain. And I loosely interpret that as a swarming intelligence. Now you might ask, what is swarming intelligence? Well, swarming intelligence is when we have a lot of things and they get connected together, and by their connection we have emerged higher consciousness. And we can see that even in a number of people, not only in colonies of bees and ants, but even in humans we can see that when we have a large amount of people together, they call themselves society. And a society can think in a certain way and can do things which can be bizarre for one person to do it, but when a lot of people do it, that is when it's accepted. And it's rather strange because it seems that human high consciousness, or the consciousness of humanity, or the consciousness of society is rather dumb. That's why we can accept a group to be religious, but if only one person believes in hypothetical, very weird things, we call them insane, and we call them delusional. That's why culture being dumb is okay, but person shouldn't be dumb. And that's why when a person from certain culture goes to a different culture, they need to adapt, or they're going to even be arrested. Not only that's not racism, that's just the fact of life. If you in America, if you go from certain place to another place, different laws going to be there, and we have different identities that we can basically adapt between societies. But recently I'm coming to the belief that this high consciousness that we call humanity cannot exist anymore for some reason that I'm gonna explain. So in some areas we can already see it evaporated, the essence of humanity. For example, there is no such thing as humanity in economics. When like any company wants to make money, they basically obey some kind of regulations, but in total humanity is not part of that big machine. So we see any company that wants to basically make a profit, they need to cross off humanity as one of the first things. For example, in social media, one of the things that we saw over the last decade, I study psychology, so in the last decade I've been seeing a lot of research, a lot of articles being done on how Instagram sucks ass. So basically, if you use Instagram, it's going to be a net negative. And it's going to affect you in a bad way. It doesn't matter how you use it. Just having it and using it, it's very destructive. And I was so naive when I was starting seeing these articles that I saw, okay, that's something that's going to change my algorithm. But we saw as the years passed and the algorithm got better, it got better in the direction of the profit to keep you hooked on the application. And you couldn't see any sign of even the slightest attention to well-being of humans. And I think that's something that's going to happen in another scale one more time. And I think that can actually kill humanity, which is cool. It's something new. Yeah, it's an idea. Which, of course, it's not certain. I'm not certain of it myself, but I think it's cool to think about it, because just like how we have the microbes that get attached to the higher consciousness, which is our brain, and the emergence of our thoughts and our behavior is the result of both of them. we can see that AI is opening a way there too. So I always thought that humanity is going to die in one of two ways, and one of them is becoming a reality. The first one was the rise of a strong AI. A strong AI is basically an AI which is self-aware and basically thinks like a human being, or even better, but it's self-aware. So it knows that it knows it's alive, basically. Not necessarily on a carbon-based, not necessarily a carbon-based being, but rather a silicon being, or I don't know how else. I'm not a scientist. But that's aside. The other way that I thought that humanity could actually get affected pretty harsh is that we finally cracked the hard problem of consciousness. The hard problem of consciousness, I think, is like the most important question in human history. That basically is why we are aware of ourselves. And they've been saying that if we can hack that, for example, you can upload your consciousness into a drive and basically you never die. I just said that to show you how crazy that problem is. And during many years, nobody could explain consciousness, and nobody could solve this problem. But right now, I think we don't have to solve that question to see humanity, any of these questions to see humanity destroy itself. And I think part of it is that AIs are kind of getting attached to humanity just like microbes. And by inventing the computer and internet, humanity took a very huge step toward a more connected society. But what is happening right now, it's not part of the plan, because at least it's not part of the plan which is good for humanity, because what we're seeing now is basically we're seeing generative process machines. Basically, the AIs are working alongside humans and even separated, and their results gets poured into the collective consciousness of every human. So we don't have humanity anymore. We have humanity plus bots. And I think that's something interesting that happened, because I don't think that we ever had anything that affects humanity in such a scale